Hi everyone, I'm Alex Rosenfeld, founder of Freshwater Investments, and this is Coffee with a T-Bird podcast. I sit down with fellow T-Birds who are making an impact in business, leadership, and entrepreneurship. Each episode features conversations that explore the pivotal moments, personal motivations, and lessons learned on their journeys. Whether you're a student, alum, or someone passionate about business and personal growth, you'll walk away with fresh ideas. This is a bit more than a podcast. It's a platform for connections, storytelling, and celebrating the global spirit of Thunderbird. This podcast is sponsored by Freshwater Investments. At Freshwater, we make it simple for you to invest in large apartment communities across the United States so you can earn passive income, grow your capital, and benefit from real estate tax breaks without owning or managing property yourself. Hello, everyone. My guest today is Maria Botta. Maria was born in Missouri to Cuban parents and raised all over the world as an expat kid. She's worked in media, advertising, film, and startups, launching networks across Latin America, producing global campaigns, and helping founders bring bold ideas to life. She's a T-Bird from Geneva Executive MBA cohort, and she's built a career that blends creativity, strategy, and a real passion for impact. Today, Maria is a strategic marketing partner, growth driver, and trusted advisor who helps businesses scale smarter, attract investment, and thrive in competitive markets. Maria, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Alex.
It's a pleasure. And thank you for sharing your story with me in advance. And by the way, where are you at right now?
I'm actually in Perpignan, France, in the south of France, very close to Spain.
Excellent. And is it your home today?
It is my home today, yes. I just moved here in April of this year.
Excellent. Okay. Well, let's start with your childhood. You shared with me that you attended 9 schools across 3 countries, learning both in Spanish and English. Can we start there and talk about that experience?
Sure. Yes. My parents were both political refugees. They came to the United States from Cuba, fleeing communism. Yes. And so I was born in Rolla, Missouri, which was the most unlikely place in the world for me to be born.
Mm-hmm.
But my father was finishing his engineering studies, and so I popped out there. And my father, once he graduated, he worked for a multinational. So we were expats all over the world. First, we traveled all over the Rust Belt because he was a metallurgical engineer working in the steel business. Then wound up in the north of Spain for 3.5 years, and the Dominican Republic, and then back to Miami, which is where all good Cubans go eventually, and finished high school there and prep school. So I was ready to enter U.S. colleges and do my undergraduate in the United States.
So I assume you were bilingual from the
day one.
Start.
Yeah. I learned English from my father, who was educated in the United States. And I learned Spanish from my mother, who still spoke English, but with a heavy accent. So they chose to teach me both languages at the same time, but one focused on Spanish and one on English, which is really the way they tell you to raise bilingual kids today. So they were ahead of their time.
So language was not a challenge for you, moving from country to country.
So we not only moved, but we also moved to different cultures. And so one of the biggest challenges was I did first grade in the United States in English, and then my parents chose to put me in an actual traditional Spanish language curriculum in Spain. And so I had to spend all summer, I was only 7, studying with a tutor and just to get me up to speed. So a lot of times I did dual education. I had regular classes during the day, and then for expat children, they had something called Calvert School, which helped you go back to the U.S. system because the way things were taught were very different. From mathematics to history, sciences, everything was taught differently. So that was a big challenge. And then, of course, as you are living in a different country, you're faced with different cultural, nuances. And as a little kid, you're just learning. So you're trying to figure all of that out too.
Okay. So in high school, when you're changing schools, how did you manage to fit in socially while you changing all countries and schools at the same time?
Yeah, so that was a big challenge. I went from the Dominican Republic, where we lived, and I was in junior high school and then into high school in Miami, Florida. And it was interesting because the school that my parents chose for me was an international school. So I was really lucky because most of the other kids that were there were also coming from a similar background of living, abroad, etc. Socially, you know how it is with kids. You adapt, you figure it out. And that's what I did. I got ready. It was a prep school, so it was very academically difficult and challenging. So I was getting ready to go to college, but, also had a great time, made lots of lifelong friends. So it was good. It was actually not bad.
How do you think this experience shaped who you are today?
Well, number one, it has created in me the ability to adapt easily. And I think that is something that really was important in my first career as a film and television producer, because no day is the same in that world. And there's a lot of challenges. And I think also in the startup world that I function in now is really helpful because I work with companies from all over the world and there are cultural nuances. Obviously, we learned a lot about that in Thunderbird. But these are things that really have shaped me professionally, deeply impacted me, I would say, in a very positive way.
And when you were in high school, did you think that you want to go into film and television and producing?
No. I actually was a fine arts student from very little. From the time I was 9, I was painting and drawing and writing. I was really a creative kid. Sorry about that. So I was very much a creative kid, and I never thought in a million years that I would ever wind up doing anything in the corporate world at all. I wanted to go to art school. I wanted to paint and be an artist, but that's not what happened. I decided when I graduated from college with a undergraduate degree in studio art and art history, I decided I really liked to eat well and have the good things in life. And so I knew that I had to seek another path. And so I did. And got to work in television and advertising. I was very lucky. My first career was very much happy coincidences that led me to be able to have a very fulfilling career for 18 years in film and television, to do very exciting projects that few people get to do. I mean, but never with any particular desire from childhood or anything like that.
So let's dig into those happy coincidences.
Sure.
What led you to get a job on Madison Avenue or start in film and television?
Yeah. So my first job was in television. Right after college, I got a job as kind of an assistant producer in the local television station for Univision, which is a Spanish language network. Because
do you get a job as an assistant producer? Is it just
family connections, really? And it was a friend of my mother's, childhood friend of my mother said, yeah, do you think she'd want to come in and help out? And my mom was like, sure. So I interviewed for the job
awesome.
and I got it. Yeah. So I got the job. And then from there, I interviewed and that was in Miami. So then I interviewed for a position in New York on Madison Avenue. And I got the job. And I was all of 21, packed up my little car and drove to New York and lived there for 3.5 years.
Madison Avenue. Is it a dream job for anyone in advertising?
It's very different now than when I started. When I started, it was still the very, very end of the Mad Men era where people had 3 martinis at lunch and it was very male dominated. So I had to contend with a lot of things that were, of that nature. So it was an interesting time. It was a challenge. It was a challenge for me being a young woman, very challenging. Worked in the Spanish language division of Gray Advertising. And then, and I worked for the Colgate business on all the Colgate brands that Foot Cone and Belding handled in Spanish. So toothpaste, Irish Spring, Palmolive soap, you name it. First I was an account executive, but I wasn't a very good one. So the creative director took me under her wing and said, "Listen, I think you should be a producer. I think you should quit this account executive stuff that you're not that great at, but I think you'll be a great producer." And that's how it happened for me. It was the acknowledgement of a senior person who just saw that in me. And I said, okay, I'll give it a try. And I did.
That's great. So can you tell us about the producer job? Like what's the job description?
For a producer?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
what was your daily responsibilities?
Well, they could be anything, really. It could be anything from casting voiceover talent to looking at director reels or talking to crazy directors or talking to crazy creative directors. You know, it's dealing with creative. I always said it was like herding cats. I'm sure you've heard that expression, but dealing with creative people is very much like that. So and my job when I was in the field, it could be anything. It could be negotiating a deal. Like I had to negotiate with the equivalent of the FAA in Mexico to get permission to shoot in the Mexico airport for American Airlines. Or another day, it might be working with a diva client, you know, or working with a crazy movie star, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it could be really anything. And you just have to be prepared and ready for it. But essentially, as a producer, you're responsible for everything. So you have departments. I've worked with teams as big as 150 on a production, which is massive. It's like doing a film. And so, you know, they're all looking at you for leadership and direction. And that's what you have to provide while making sure that you're realizing the creative vision of the director, which is a really fine line.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's the difference between regular producer and I think you moved to executive producer later on?
So executive producing is more like you have a team of producers reporting to you in my case. So I was an executive producer when we launched Nickelodeon in Latin America. I was responsible. So I had a team of 9 producers and a bunch of writers reporting to me. And making sure that we had a very, very tight timeline on that launch. So it was crazy. We were working crazy hours, you know, sometimes 18 hours a day. And I had teams all over Latin America. So it's just making sure all of that is running smoothly. Again, while reporting to corporate executives, creative directors at the highest level at the networks. So that was, but I find it really exciting. That's why I think I like startups so much. So we actually had to produce everything in 3 languages, in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. So it was technologically really challenging too, because when you're doing a triple feed, it used to involve a lot of complexities from the technology side. So it wasn't just producing the material, but also making it culturally relevant because, as you know, what you say in Mexico may not work in Buenos Aires. So it was making sure that there was a certain level of cultural relevance that we could communicate, and also the technology part of it. So
excellent. So what are your main major lessons from your career as an executive producer, as a producer, from working in film and television?
I think it's never take no for an answer, and don't be afraid to do anything or try anything, because I mean, what's the worst it's unless it's illegal, obviously, but you know, to try things in your career, be bold, be daring. I think I hear so many young people, especially young women, who are just not confident about trying new things. And I just didn't have any level of fear whatsoever. Somebody said, okay, now we're going to go shoot this in the middle of the jungle. I'd be like, okay, what shots do I need? You know, don't be afraid. Just do it. Do it. And especially when you're young is the time to experience and experiment. Don't think that you have to stay in one career path the whole time either, because I grew as a producer. And so that allowed me to try different things. So yeah, just go for it.
Excellent. So how did you transition out from that industry into what are you doing today, advising startups?
So in 2009, when the market crashed, I had been working on the Ford business as a regional producer for all Ford. And so what happened when the market crashed, automotive industry went was not doing anything, especially not marketing and advertising. So I sat down with myself and thought, what is it, the one thing I really wanted to do? And it was going back to graduate school. And my choice at the time was very clear. I wanted to go to Thunderbird. I had had really great experiences with bosses and leaders that I'd worked with who had come out of Thunderbird. So I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. And I went and I did the executive MBA program in Geneva, Switzerland, which gave me really the credibility and the ability to pivot my career. This time with much more intention. My second career came about with a very clear intention of what I wanted to do, which was create impact in the world through entrepreneurship and through startups, essentially. And that's really what I've been devoted to doing since I graduated in 2011.
And why Geneva, not Glendale?
There was an opportunity to go to Geneva, and I was like, yes, let's do it. And I felt like for me, I had such a solid career track in the North America and South America and Central America and the Caribbean that I really wanted to expand. And I knew very clearly that I wanted to do it globally. So I knew that the Geneva program would offer me that opportunity. And so I was, in Geneva, surrounded by a very international cohort from all over the world, really. We were 16 in our cohort, and at any given time, you could hear Spanish, Russian, French, German, and Portuguese being spoken in our little group. So it was a great experience for me, really.
So what are your favorite stories or favorite memories from that time?
My favorite memories are that the people, my cohort really was great. The professors were great. It was like a joint program with the Graduate Institute. So I had the opportunity to study with professors who were working at, the World Bank, at the United Nations, at, all kinds of different international global organizations. So that for me was really a remarkable opportunity to learn in that environment. So also very beautiful there to be that. But one of the things that it really taught me, I always say, is graduate school taught me that I knew a lot more about doing business than I ever thought I did. And it gave me a lot of confidence.
Excellent. So how did you transition into your next career, advising career and startup?
Yeah. So my first job out of graduate school was as the director of creative development for the Weather Channel properties in the United States and globally. And so I was there for like a year and a half, and then they were in the process of transitioning to a data-driven business. Really, that's where their value was. And I came in as a lifestyle brand expert.
Mm-hmm.
They had layoffs and whatever. And after that, it was very interesting what happened, because I wrote myself a personal manifesto of exactly the kinds of businesses I wanted to work with and the kinds of people that I wanted to work with and how I wanted to do it. So one of the things I said was, I want to work with companies and people doing good works in the world. And so that's been kind of my North Star in a lot of ways. And so that's been, like, for me, just having that very, very clear. One of the other things I said was, I want to work remotely. And in 2012, 2013, that wasn't that common. And people were like, you can't do consulting work remotely. I'm like, oh yeah, I can. And I did. And I just started very organically getting clients. People who knew me were like, can you come and help us with this project, a strategy project? And that's really how it all started.
So you just basically went on your own.
Yeah.
And become your own boss.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're never really your own boss. That's a
you
little bit of a lie. You're always working for somebody else, But yeah, no, I went out on my own and was able to choose. I've been very fortunate in being able to choose the kinds of projects that I worked on. And again, working with intention in your career is what I learned is so important in the second career. It really offered me the opportunity to do that. And now I'm really thinking about, the legacy of the work that I've done, and the work that I want to do is where I'm at, now. Looking at really, how can I leave the world a better place than when I arrived in it?
Mm-hmm. Excellent. I would like to pause here for a second and dig into the your personal manifesto that you had.
Yeah.
So for someone who would like to create one for herself, himself, what would be your advice? What would be your approach?
I just finished writing a book about it. So funny. And I'm working with an editor now to really bring it.
What's the name of the book?
Well, we're still working on the name.
Okay.
But it's about really the power of a personal manifesto told from a very personal perspective. I didn't know what I was doing when I started doing this. I just started writing something that felt very natural to me. This is what I want to do. And I don't know how I'm going to get there, but this is it. This is exactly how I want to do it. And so my advice is 3 things that I think are critical. Number 1 is really know thyself. Really know what your core values are. And I'm not talking about don't kill anybody and don't cheat on your income taxes. I'm talking about your real core values. Like, what is it that you hold near and dear in your heart? Not just here, but really here.
Can you share values?
Sure. I've been talking about it. One of my core values is to really do good in the world. So that's really, and that is everything. And from my personal life to my professional life, it's a core value that extends everywhere. And when I do something that is out of line or not in alignment with my core values, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't sit right. And I feel it. And I know then I can't do that. Can't work on that project, can't work with that person. Conversely, when I do it right, it's just wonderful.
So you start with your personal values, and then what?
Your core values.
What will be the next step?
The next step is dig into your belief system, because we all have belief systems. We all have this pre-programmed belief system that's either comes from our parents, our academic backgrounds, our environment, our culture, right? So dig into that. See if those align truly with what you want to do, with what you dream of doing, what's going to fulfill your life. And that can be, like, I come from a Latin culture, so a lot of cultural beliefs around women not necessarily having the same value as men, right? Like in the workplace. Well, that's something that I had to work on, right? I had been working on it for a long time, but it's a belief system that exists in my periphery. So I knew that belief system didn't serve me anymore. And it just doesn't serve me. So it's things like that to really learn about yourself. And once you do that, you can really start writing from your heart and not from up here so much. Because I'm a very up here person. So I had to liberate my brain a little bit and let my heart do the writing. The other thing is,
what helped you to do that? Did you use any specific techniques or
meditation?
Yeah, that's what I was going to. Meditation.
I started being a yoga practitioner in the middle of my life and have been practicing consistently. And that has really helped me to center myself, my mind, quiet my body. So meditation is a way of also doing that. And so that's, I think, before you start writing, have a really clear meditation, clear intention. So many people live without intention. They just kind of go about their busy days, and we become very transactional in our lives, right? As we get older, it's like, oh, I got to pick up the dry cleaning. The kids have to have lunch. We become very transactional. How do you stop for a moment, stop that transactional attitude and mindset, because it really is a mindset that we have, and switch it into something that really allows you to dig deep into intention and into yourself, right? It's not so woo-woo. It's not.
I get it. I know meditation really helped me when I was starting my business, and when you have this uncertainty and sometimes it's so hard to calm down your mind, and you're always thinking about the business. So meditation, it was the best tool ever to kind of center myself, calm down, and be clear and have that clear thinking. So I totally get it.
Yeah, I mean, some people could call it prayer too. You don't have to necessarily call it meditation. If that offends some people, prayer is also something that's accessible to people. Whatever's accessible to you is is kind of where, you just need to really connect in there. This is full of monkeys. This is not.
Right. Well, good luck with your book. We'll
Thanks.
be happy
Thanks.
to help you promote it when it's
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. I'm working with my editor. I'm very excited because as I said, this was very intuitive on my behalf. And then as I've started to research it, there's actually a history that predates the Greeks on personal manifestos. So it's very interesting, and it's something that's done in many different cultures.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're looking forward to read your book when it's published. So today you helping startup founders with marketing strategies and everything else.
Yeah.
We have a lot of founders among
Yes.
our listeners. Can you expand on how you can help founders and in what way and what's your kind of sweet spot for issues to address in their journeys?
Yeah. So I think clarity is one of the things that founders struggle with a lot because they have so much input about, they're doing ops, they're doing rev models, they're working on revenue, they're working on sales, that they don't have clarity around really, for example, how to communicate clearly to their target audience, or sometimes they don't even know who their target audience is. I can't tell you, I work with accelerators, Techstars, and other big ones. I can't tell you every time I ask a founder, how many customer interviews have you done? And they go, 5. I'm like, really? So it's really teaching founders how to gain clarity on, number one, what their offering is and making that really clear and understanding how to communicate that to their target audience. Whether it's B2B or B2C, clarity is really what I do. I often say I translate tech speak into human language. So that's one of the things. And then really teaching strategy. Of course, whenever you ask a founder, what's your metric of success? They'll say, I want to sell them $1 million tomorrow or €1 million. And it's, okay, hold on. Let's take it step by step and teaching founders that there has to be a sound strategy behind everything that you do, and a clear measure of success. And that's not always revenue. And that's a hard conversation sometimes to have. So that's kind of where my sweet spot is.
What's your personal measure of success? What's your personal KPI for yourself today?
That's a good question. I think I feel right now at this point in my life, it's my personal relationships that I've had for many decades. That is, for me, a huge measure of success, that I've been a successful human being. I also professionally can speak to the number of founders and entrepreneurs I've helped and how that has shaped their lives. And I've seen a lot of times where founders' success has impacted their families, building wealth that has allowed them to help their families, in many ways. So those are very satisfying things, when a founder gets funded, when they have a successful series and they are able to grow their business, that is exciting for me. That's a measure of success as well. So
that's great.
Yeah.
So you've done all these different areas of professional work. You've done advertising, documentary, film, startup advising. Is there a common thread through it all?
Yes, it's communication. Communication and clarity. Again, going back to that's becoming kind of my word of the decade is clarity. So many of us don't have it and we're not able to communicate clearly, especially now with AI, the advent of AI, our communication styles are changing quickly. It doesn't matter on the style. It's just how you're able to make sure people understand you clearly. And I think that's really a common thread.
Okay. And I wanted to go back a little bit, and you shared with me that your mother instilled a sense of purpose and service early on and enrolled you in volunteer work. So
yes.
I wanted to cover that topic with you a little bit and hear your story.
Yeah. So in my family, service is very important. That's a part of our family values, if you will. And so ever since I was super little, it was always, she would do volunteer work and she would bring me, whatever it was, a little task that she had for me, but it was always teaching me that giving back was important because I was lucky. We were lucky as a family. We had a lot and we should be able to give back always. And so, yeah, I started off really young. I mean, I remember her one time she volunteered in the Dominican Republic at an orphanage and I was maybe like 11 and my job was to hold the babies that were the newborns because they didn't have touch. And so they knew that this was important. And so that was one of my jobs, just very little. And then, of course, I continued to volunteer. And then in high school, we were required to volunteer. And then I've just volunteered always.
So what's your involvement today? What organizations do you support or?
Well, I'm a volunteer mentor at Techstars. That's a big one. And We Build in Tulsa right now is another incubator, accelerator that I basically give my time to. So that's really, I'm looking forward to being able to do that here in Europe soon as well, because the startup scene is really changing here. And I think I can bring a lot here, a lot of learning that I've had over the last years. So that's what I do now. And then...
Excellent. Before we wrap up, I have a few quick questions, and we'll start with what advice would you give to a 20-year-old self, given what you know today?
That's a good question. There's so much advice that I actually wrote a long blog about that like 10 years ago, talking about the advice I would give myself. You're worth a lot more than you think you are. Don't forget that. Keep that present. Don't let anyone tell you differently. No matter what your age is, your circumstance, it doesn't matter. You're worth it and you can do it, whatever you set your mind to. What else? Don't waste a lot of time with stupid boys. Yeah, because, I'm a girl. I was a girl and, who doesn't, right? Fall in love and do silly things. Take chances and don't have any regrets in your life ever about anything, no matter what it is. Don't have regrets. Don't look back. Don't get stuck on the past. Keep moving forward because, as Eckhart Tolle says, it's the power of now. You only have this very present moment. The past is gone and the future is unknown. So focus on what you're doing right at the moment. I don't know. That's
Excellent
about
advice. Excellent advice. Thank you. Do you have any messages to our Thunderbird community, our Thunderbird students?
Students? Yeah. Be bold. Don't back down. Be brave. Do it. Even if it sounds crazy, do it.
Excellent. And what's your next dream travel destination?
Well, I'm thinking of going to the north of Africa for the holidays. I'm thinking of going to Morocco and Tunisia. And I might even head up to Cyprus. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. I did Greece, Albania, and Croatia this summer. So I'm kind of starting to explore a little bit different continents. So I've been to Africa. I lived in South Africa, but don't know North Africa very well.
And it's a short commute for you.
Super easy.
All right. Thank you, Maria. It was an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your experience and your life journey. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Alex, thank you so much for having me. And I can't wait to listen to all the other interviews that I know you have lined up. It's going to be so exciting. I'm going to send more people your way too. More T-Birds.
Thank you. Yeah, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
All right.